Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mickelson, your host, speaking at you from Tuesday, April 7th, 2026, in the space and time continuum. And we're back after a week off, which I just abruptly did because I was being driven crazy by everything, as you probably were too. So my apologies if you were counting on listening to my show last week. But we're back, and I was getting ready for the show and realized it just felt like something weird would happen this morning. And sure enough, it did, as you probably know. Donald Trump saying, "An entire civilization is going to die tonight." He's absolutely lost it. He's absolutely lost it. Now, we want to talk about all of the lies they're perpetrating. It was said on MSNBC. I had to drive around yesterday. Part of the reason I didn't do it yesterday was because I had a busy day with appointments going on. So I had to drive around, and that's when I listened to MSNBC, which is now called MS Now. And it's getting better. It's still, could be a lot better, but it is getting better. And they had a guy on who said, "I don't know why we report on what Donald Trump says because it's rarely correct. It isn't news. It really isn't news, is it?" That might be the title of the show. It really isn't news, is it? We're not getting the news in this country. Now I'm going to go down the notes that I have because it's just a long list of notes starting from almost 2 weeks ago. It'll kind of be a fun review. Let's go back in time to 2 weeks ago. Remember how the world was 2 weeks ago? Even though the world was in a shambles and a mess 2 weeks ago, it still seems like at least we weren't thinking that a nuclear bomb was going to be dropped tonight. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think a nuclear bomb is going to be dropped tonight. And I want to say, which way do you think it's going to go? Is it going to go where he says, "Push the button. I want the button. Where's the button? I want to push the button. I didn't like what they said. I didn't like they're treating me unfair. Very unfair. Where's the button?" And then they throw handcuffs on him. And there will be Nuremberg trials later on. That's one possibility. Another possibility is he'll push the button and aliens from other dimensions will come and stop it because a nuclear bomb would also disrupt their civilizations, and I think they have stopped them in the past. So that's another. I'm giving you possibilities, not probabilities. That's a possibility. Another one is taco. It is Taco Tuesday. It's Trump Taco Tuesday. And it sounds like he's already finding other people to put out messages that maybe look like he's going to cave. Of course, when he said they better make the right decision, he has said, "I'm going to send them to the Stone Age." He has said he's going to kill an entire civilization, meaning the Iranian people. Yet at the end of that, he says, "Bless the Iranian people." This is where this guy's at, right? He disappears again for days. And then when he comes back, he has an Easter egg hunt on the day after Easter. He skips Easter. We don't know where he is on Easter. The day after Easter, he comes back. His right hand is swollen. It was referred to by people as a water balloon looking type of thing with really bad colorization, meaning his makeup job on his hand. So I think it's pretty obvious that he's coming near death at least once a month now. He disappears for about 3 days, and then he shows up and his hand is in worse shape. They're pumping him up with something so that he can function for who knows how much longer. It's incredible he's lasted this long. But I told you I was going to read the notes that I started writing at the top of the notes from 2 weeks ago. Global economic calamity. This will be the equivalent of what happened in COVID-19 in early 2020. The whole world will have to shut down. That's something that I wrote because that's what experts were saying. Also 2 weeks ago, 36 GOPers, quote unquote, retiring. Sam Graves, he was a guy who signed up to run in Missouri in February. And then 2 weeks ago said, nope, I'm not running anymore. What happened? What happened? So the Republicans are running for the doors, and right now they're on break. Have you noticed how none of them are giving any statements about any of this that's going on right now? These lies and this insanity. Okay, I'm gonna kind of speed it up a little bit here. Jack Smith, I believed that Bondi put a shot over Trump's bow by saying, by putting out that memo. How did that memo leak? So this is again 2 weeks ago. You might not even remember what I'm talking about. Now, of course, Bondi has been fired since then, but she knows a lot of information. I don't know what's going to happen there. Overreach of oil shifts is scaring the world into more strongly shifting to green energy. That's something I wrote 2 weeks ago. And then again this week, I also wrote in the new notes, oil prices cause better EV sales. The sales of, or the pricing of used electric vehicles has gone back up because people are valuing them again. People are looking into buying an EV. So that's sort of a silver lining in the horrible, idiotic clouds that we're living in now, right? Trump folds on TSA. That was 2 weeks ago now, where he signed to fund TSA. Hegseth blocked only black or women military into being promoted. That was from 2 weeks ago. Iran hits U.S. planes in Saudi Arabia with Russia's help, blew up some U.S. planes, leading into what's happened now in the last few days. About a week and a half ago, the IDF chief of staff, that's Israel's military chief of staff, says that they were on the verge of collapse. Did you hear that in the news? The Cash Patel leak from an Iranian, or was it Iranian? Handala, yeah, Iranian Cash Patel hack leaked his emails. Nobody seemed to care, except that it's pretty astonishing that the head of the FBI was hacked so easily. Pope Leo said no, Jesus would not be praying for the death of people like Pete Kegbreath is doing. I also wrote down that it's hilarious that Trump keeps saying we had to go on a little excursion to Iran, and you know that they were saying, sir, we might have to have them do an incursion in Iran. And he's like, we have to go on an excursion. It sounds nice. No, sir, an incursion. That's what I said, excursion. I went on an excursion when I was a teenager, and it was really a nice time. No, it's incursion. Okay. Anyway. What else? Trump threatens war crimes. He's threatened war crimes numerous times now. He also revealed the military complex beneath the ballroom, something I'm sure he was not supposed to be doing. Market manipulation was no longer working. That's what I wrote 2 weeks ago, because he's been trying to do it every weekend, except this weekend, where instead of on Monday morning coming out and saying, we're close to a deal, he said, if they don't do a deal, I'm going to bomb the entire country. It'll take us one night to erase the entire country. And then this morning he wakes up and says, what he said this morning. Another thing I wrote last week was CPAC is failing and Turning Points USA is failing. Both of them are having hardly anyone show up for them. There was video a week and a half or so ago of CPAC. It seems like they have CPAC once every 2 weeks or something like that. But yeah. Also, last week is when Marco Rubio went on TV and said, these people are lunatics. They're insane. And that's why we're dealing with them. They seem reasonable. Yeah, those are all in my notes from last week, which to me was like such a dull headache. I didn't feel like coming on and trying to be hopeful because there was nothing hopeful going on last week. Of course, there's nothing hopeful going on this week except for the fact that maybe space aliens will come and save us and finally show themselves to us, and we can have fun, go on fun rides on spacecraft and things like that. That's a positive thing. Maybe that's what Trump is here to make happen, right? So, yeah, that's a positive thing. Okay, anyway, the beginning of this week. Official ice out. Now, in Minnesota here, there's an official ice out date. It's usually at the beginning, like around the 5th to the 8th of April. And that's where the even larger lakes, like in Lake Minnetonka, some of the larger bays, like Crystal Bay, is 90 feet deep and a lot of water. So the ice out takes longer. That means the ice melting so that the water is open again. That's in Minnesota, the official ice out date. But now, forever, it will mean what you're thinking it would mean. Yes, ice is out. We pretty much kicked them motherfuckers out of this state. So, now let's go on to the notes that I had beginning from this week. The Friday before that, it came out that there was a ballistic study done on the bullet that supposedly hit Donald Trump in the ear. We all know it didn't. We don't know what happened there, but the bullet that they're claiming happened there did not come from the gun that Tyler Robinson had. The gun and the bullet do not match, according to ballistic forensics. That would mean that Tyler Robinson did not, if he shot that gun, he didn't shoot that bullet. So that's all up in the air again. And it's pretty incredible. And if you review all of the details of that story, which we did hear months ago when it first happened, it looks very much like... by the way, I'm sorry, not Donald Trump's ear. This is Charlie Kirk, the Charlie Kirk assassination. I get my fake staged assassinations mixed up. Now, of course, it looks like Charlie Kirk did actually get killed, so that maybe wasn't a fake assassination, but it sure sounds like it was staged. So I get my staged assassination attempts mixed up. Trump tries to intimidate SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, by attending, last Monday, I think it was, their hearing on the citizenship. That's something that would happen on The Sopranos. That's what the mob does. He's sitting there staring them down. You better do the right thing. You better do the right thing, or it would be a shame if something bad happened to that beautiful daughter of yours, that wonderful family of yours. It'll be really a shame if something happened to the family, your beautiful family. Yeah, it's easy to mix up Trump and Don Corleone. Except for Don Corleone seemed to be an intelligent person, whereas Donald Trump seems to possibly be neither of those two things. Also, news this last week. Pete Kegbreath tried to cash in on the war. One of his brokers said, yeah, we tried to make a multi-million-dollar investment or $1.5 million investment in a military contractor. Because, of course, we knew, this is right before the war was called in Iran. So that is illegal on many, many levels. And Kegbreath now canceled this morning a press conference. And people are speculating that he is in deep trouble. His polling is in the tank. And it sounds like even Trump is kind of like wanting to possibly get rid of him because it's not working the way Trump was hoping it to work. We will go through part of why that is, because I yesterday also heard the press conference that Kegbreath spoke at, along with another military leader. I didn't write down his name or anything. It kind of doesn't matter because he's also a sycophant. And I'll read you the script that he read. It's pretty incredible. And we'll go through some of the things that Kegbreath said yesterday. But it's interesting that Kegbreath had a presser this morning, and as arrogant as he is whenever he appears on TV, it's surprising that he would ever cancel an appearance on TV, because that's, of course, why he took this job. So why did he cancel? Very interesting. So when Kegbreath gets fired, he's probably going to be in for an awful lot of legal trouble. Let's take a short break and come back. I feel like we haven't even started yet here. But let's take a short break and come back and get into some of this. I want to go through some details about the rescue, supposed so-called rescue that supposedly happened in Iran. I think when you hear all the details, which I know you haven't heard on mainstream media, I think you'll be quite astonished. We'll talk about that when we come back from a short break. You're listening to A Satellite View. We'll be right back. We're back on A Satellite View. Find our website, satelliteviewpodcast.com. Sign up to be on our emailer. Go to YouTube and search for Satellite View Podcast, and you'll find our YouTube channel. Subscribe. It's free. And push the like button on the videos. You can watch these actually visually as well as listen to them. But if you're listening, thank you so much for being here. By the way, you can also find me at Todd Nicholson on Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, and places like that. So I think I'm shifting here because I'm getting into this rescue on the on my list here, and so I'm gonna do one thing so that I don't forget. After this rescue happened, the government actually, it sounds like maybe weeks ago, the United States government ordered a company called Planet Labs to stop providing the media with their satellite photos. Planet Labs provides satellite photos. So they have satellites that take photos of planet Earth, and they have contracts with media outlets. And a media outlet can say, hey, can you send us your newest picture of, that rescue, whatever, those wrecked planes in Iran? Planet Labs is no longer providing those to the media because the United States government told them not to, and they're apparently complying to that. I don't know what you think, where you take that. I don't know how that can happen, really. But so at the press conference, this was something that was written and released before the press conference that, of course, Ben Meiselas on Midas Touch put out and reported on. And also Jennifer Griffin reported on it on Twitter. And then I heard it read verbatim, and I was surprised, by a military official at the press conference yesterday talking about this rescue that we're going to talk about here, because our government is just blatantly lying to us now, and it's pretty insane. Here's how this is written, according to a senior administrator. Well, we know it was written this way because it was read verbatim. It sounds to me like a movie promo, like a plot for an action movie.
Prior to locating the weapons system officer and the U.S. military's daring rescue, the CIA first launched a deceptive campaign spreading word inside Iran that U.S. forces had already found him and were moving him on the ground for exfiltration out of the country. While the Iranians were confused and uncertain of what was happening, the agency used its unique, exquisite capabilities to search for and find the American airman. This was the ultimate needle in a haystack, but in this case it was a brave American soul inside a mountain crevice, invisible but for CIA's capabilities. The CIA immediately shared the WSO's exact location with the Pentagon and the White House. The president ordered an immediate rescue mission, which Centrom exerted with boldness and precision, with CIA continuing to provide real-time information.
Really? You use the word exquisite capabilities when you're doing an official military report on something? That's just stupid! Oh, God. And then Kegbreath went on, and he was doing his own little fantasy. I was in there, I looked at the clock, and it was at 45 hours, 28 minutes, and 47 seconds. A call that was never interrupted, that was constantly followed by the team and waiting for a signal from the airman. And then it finally came. It said, "God is good." And then we knew he was alive and we knew where he was. Really? I swear to God, go find this. I'm not exaggerating. It's even more crazy than that. But I want to go through, I mean, what Kegbreath said in that, and then what Donald Trump was saying in it, it's so infuriating. I mean, yeah, listening to it in real time, I was just yelling. Just constant, I'm driving my car, and it's like, what a fucking idiot! I'm just screaming. All the windows are closed, and, you know, people in other cars are looking over at me because I'm yelling so loud. Not yelling at them, I'm yelling at Kegbreath and Trump. And this, oh God, it was complete North Korean propaganda. That's what it was. That's what it all is. I'm going to read now a couple inputs from Arnaud Bertrand. And because, not because of who he is or anything, but because he gives a great synopsis. With each of these points, he provides a link with more information on all of these details. I'm not going to read those links, obviously, but all the details and statistics within his statement here are followed up, basically in footnotes, with each sentence almost having a link where you can go read much more information about the one statistic referred to in the one sentence. So I'm going to read the whole thing for you now. He starts off, so if I got that right, here's the narrative. A U.S. F-15E fighter jet got shot down over Iran, despite Trump saying 2 days beforehand in his nationwide address that Iran has no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated. The plane's weapons systems officer, a highly respected colonel, according to Trump, ejected from the plane and got seriously wounded. He still managed to hike up a 7,000-foot mountain ridge line and hide in a crevice more than 100 miles away from where he supposedly was shot down. Despite his wounds, a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone started killing all Iranian military-aged males believed to be a threat who got within 3 kilometers of the Americans' location. Now, of course, the Americans' location seemed to be changing constantly, and I thought that the Iranians couldn't, why were we so scared of them? So we were holding them off with Reaper drones I guess, well, the guy that we didn't know where he was? You see what I'm talking about here? They're making these claims of
An MQ-9 Reaper drone started killing all Iranian military-aged males believed to be a threat who got within 3 kilometers of the American's location.
but we didn't know the American's location, I thought. And the American was moving at, sounds like he was walking, since he walked up a 77,000-foot mountain ridge, about 110 miles. It sounds like he was walking at approximately 30 miles an hour. God damn it. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure my speedometer calculation is off there. But when you lie like this, it's so easy to see the contradictions, and you just can't help but stop and ask, wait, I thought we didn't know where he was, Okay, so now I'm going to go back to this. To retrieve him, the U.S. managed to seize an abandoned airport 200 miles deep inside Iran near Isfahan, which happens to be where Iran's largest atomic scientific center is located. They landed 2 MC-130 military transport planes in that airport in an operation involving hundreds of Special Forces troops and military personnel. Okay, now we got to ask the question. I thought you're picking up one guy. Doesn't that mean usually you send in some special ops guys really quietly with 1 or 2 helicopters? If you know where the guy is, you pick him up and you take him out as quickly as you can. Why are you flying 2 gigantic? These are like the huge. They're huge. MC-130 military transport planes, 2 of them, and hundreds of Special Forces troops and military personnel. What, did you bring catering? Now, even though these MC-130 military transport planes are some of the highest technology planes that we have, they're not fighter planes, but they're not supposed to do things like get stuck in the sand. Okay? Both MC-130 planes got stuck in the sand, and the U.S. destroyed them themselves to prevent them from falling into Iranian hands. That's what Kegbreath wants us to believe. That's what the American propaganda is saying. So then they deployed 3 new aircraft to extract all the U.S. personnel on the ground. There are videos circulating online of heavy clashes with presumably Iranian missiles raining down on them. They named the place and it's too long. Iran sent pictures of the aftermath at the quote-unquote abandoned airport, and it's a site of utter destruction with U.S. plane and MH-6 helicopter parts scattered all over the ground, still smoking. Iran claims they are the ones who, in fact, destroyed all the aircraft. Now, who do you believe? I don't know. One of these sources seems to make sense, and the other doesn't. And sadly, the one that makes sense is the Iranian reports. Meanwhile, a second U.S. plane, an A-10 Warthog, also crashed on Friday near the Strait of Hormuz, according to 2 U.S. officials speaking to the New York Times. In that instance, too, the lone pilot was apparently safely rescued. In all this, after the multiple planes and helicopters destroyed or shot down, the documented heavy clashes, the hundreds of Special Forces troops and military personnel operating deep inside Iran, not a single U.S. soldier was reported killed or even wounded. And the highly respected colonel, this was all for? This was all to rescue one guy, a highly respected colonel. They won't tell us his name. There's no photo of him. There's no interview. Nobody has spoken to him or knows who he is. Same with the other pilots that were supposedly rescued. Wow. Missiles were raining down on us, but nobody got hurt. It's okay. Nobody got hurt.
It's like when I got shot in the ear. It really didn't hurt that much.
So to sum it up, anti-aircraft equipment that supposedly didn't exist shot down an F-15 and apparently an A-10 Warthog the same day. A seriously wounded man climbed a 7,000-foot mountain. The U.S. seized an airfield 200 miles inside a country it's at war with, next to one of its most strategic nuclear sites, and deployed hundreds of troops, all apparently unimpeded. Lost 2 planes to sand and destroyed their own helicopters. Videos show heavy clashes, missiles raining down, but not a single person got even wounded. And the man at the center of all of it, nobody knows who he is, completely anonymous, 0 pictures, but Trump says he is safe and sound. And so is the rescued A-10 Warthog pilot, who also remains anonymous. Trump concludes this all proves the U.S. achieved overwhelming air dominance and superiority over the Iranian skies, despite the whole episode only happening because Iran shot his planes out of the sky. Basically, the only thing that's overwhelming here is the audacity of the storytelling. Now let's go to the Iranian account. Iranian military-linked sources, including Qatam al Command and state-affiliated outlets, claim that operation resulted in significant U.S. losses under combat conditions. They say Iranian forces engaged U.S. aircraft and ground elements, leading to the destruction of multiple assets, including 2 C-130 MC-130 transport aircraft, 2 Black Hawk helicopters, drones including an Mk-9 Reaper and a Hermes 900. Iran media also reported intense ground clashes in the area during the rescue attempt. Fars news agencies said 9 Iranians were killed and 7 wounded in Kahagah and Baghuz province during the overnight operation. State-linked commentary drew comparisons to Operation Eagle Claw from 1980. That was under Jimmy Carter, the failed U.S. Rescue mission in Iran back then, trying to rescue the hostages. There was a sandstorm going on that messed with the 2 helicopters we sent in, and it ended up being kind of a disaster for the. It was a huge risk, but it was turned out to be kind of a disaster. But it was reported truthfully on by the Jimmy Carter administration. Okay, so Iran is framing the latest operation as similar to that or deeper, an even deeper setback. An advisor to Parliament Speaker Mohammad Baghar Ghalibaf described the mission as a historic failure, claiming U.S. forces suffered losses across multiple aircraft types and suggesting the scale of the operation had been downplayed by Washington. Also, Keg Breath actually said, this airman was shot down on Friday, Good Friday. He traveled, and we found him, and he was rescued on Sunday, Easter Sunday. I'm serious. This is what Keg Breath did in that press conference. Wow. The guy is a religious freak. Just how he describes the Iranian enemy to be. Wow. So, who knows how many military personnel have been killed? We're also not allowed to see the air bases that were destroyed. There was, back weeks ago, before the that company Planet Labs stopped sending their satellite images, one of the air bases in Saudi Arabia that was hit something like a month ago, their reporting was, oh, it's not a big deal. Nobody got hurt, and there's just a little fire. And then about 2 weeks later, images came from Planet Labs, and it was absolutely burned to the ground. And then reports came out that the military personnel was moved to hotels in the area, absolutely against any kind of protocol. Illegal for them to take up a public space, and absolutely dangerous and insecure. And no reporting on what is happening with all of the displaced military personnel in the now we know to be many air bases that were attacked. I'm sure nobody got hurt. I'm sure everyone is safe. I'm sure everything is fine.
because our superiority
is making it so that Iran is completely decimated and unable to do anything. But then also he was saying, we were flying with a lot of Iranian resistance the whole time. And then he said, the order was given even though it was in the middle of the night. It was given quickly by our great president. So then we were flying for 7 hours in daylight. Okay, why? I thought everything was supposed to happen quickly. And why does it take 7 hours for the fastest airplanes in the world to fly 200 miles? I could get on a flight and fly from here to the Wisconsin Dells, and it would be probably a 45-minute flight. Why are you flying for 7 hours? And you think we're not going to be able to figure this out? Now, let's see what happens tonight. I predict it'll turn into another Taco Tuesday with Donald Trump. Of course, TACO stands for Trump always chickens out. This backfired huge in his face. So I predict Taco Tuesday. But I'm hoping for him to actually order nuclear war, and then the aliens come and show themselves to us. Stop the nuclear war. The military arrests Donald Trump, and we have a new government under the true winner. By the way, and more reports of 2 million votes being held back in Florida in the 2024 presidential election. So maybe we get our rightful president back. This is what I'm hoping for. Kamala Harris becomes the leader of whatever new government that is different than our current type of government, because our current type of government is clearly not working. Donald Trump is arrested. There are trials somewhere similar to the Nuremberg trials. People are properly punished, or whatever happens in the new earth that we're moving into, that the space aliens will bring, because they will be triggered to finally come and show themselves in order to stop the nuclear genocide that Trump is trying to do to wipe out an entire civilization, in his own words. That's what I'm hoping for. Space aliens, Kamala Harris president. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's manifest that destiny. How about? Huh? Are you with me? Are you with me? Let's do it. Thank you so much for listening to me. I know I've gone kind of long. I had a lot of stuff to cover. It's like last week there wasn't enough to cover, and this week there was too much to cover. But anyway, the energy of all this is, as you know, is sometimes it's just a dull headache, and it's just depressing as hell, and it's impossible to get out of bed in the morning. And then sometimes it's energizing and enraging. Now, what I found is I really had to be careful and take care of myself, and I hope that you do the same. Ignore this if you need to. That was my mistake last week. And so then I ignored it at the beginning of last week, and then I got back on the horse. And I'm back this week with a lot of energy. I'm feeling good. I know I'm going to be back next week. I know what happened to me last week is not going to happen next week, because I'm re-energized. And part of it is because I took a break last week. So please take a break when you need to. Play your guitar, play your trombone, play your banjo, play your piano, play baseball, play football, play hockey, play video games, play your violin, maybe a cello. Keep yourself sane. Take care of yourself. Go for walks in nature. The weather's hopefully starting to get nicer here in the northern hemisphere, and it still is nice in the southern hemisphere. So take care of yourself, really. And incredible turnout at the Kings, No Kings Day 2 weeks ago. We need to keep that up. If we all stick together, we are making a difference. We are making a difference. Things are changing. And it's because of you and your perseverance. So let's stick together. Keep doing this together. It is working. Even at times it doesn't feel like it is. Remember that it really is. So, thank you so much for sticking with me this week, and I will speak at you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mickelson. Go to toddmickelson.com for links and more information.